The Declaration. The council chamber of Vexoria floated in the void between stars, a massive crystalline structure that had witnessed 10,000 years of galactic peace. Today that peace would shatter. Ambassador Thrain Vex of the Korvathi Empire stood at the central podium, his four arms spread wide in a gesture of authority. His silver scales caught the light from a dozen distant suns as he addressed the assembled representatives of 43 species. The humans, Thrain declared, his voice amplified across the chamber, have refused our final ultimatum. They will not surrender their independent military. They will not submit to council oversight. They will not accept their place in the established order. In the observation gallery, Commander Elena Vasquez watched through reinforced glass. Her dark eyes remained steady, though her jaw tightened. She wore the simple blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, a stark contrast to the elaborate robes and exotic forms surrounding her. Counselor Mira then of the Etherian Collective rose next. Her translucent form shimmered with agitation. The humans have existed in our galaxy for merely 2 centuries. 2 centuries. Some of us have lived longer than their entire spacefaring civilization. Yet they dare to reject the wisdom of the Council? They are a dangerous species, added General Kryn, his insectoid mandibles clicking with each word. They reproduce too quickly. They adapt too rapidly. They question everything. If we do not act now, they will upset the balance that has kept our galaxy stable for millennia. Elena had heard enough. She activated her communication badge. This is Commander Vasquez to Earth Command. They're going through with it. The voice of Admiral Marcus Chen crackled back. Understood. All human colonies are moving to defensive positions. How long do we have? Before Elena could answer, Thrain's voice boomed again. By the authority vested in this council by the Treaty of Endless Stars, we hereby declare a state of enforcement action against the human species. They have 30 standard cycles to surrender all military assets and accept full council governance. Failure to comply will result in systematic occupation of all human worlds. The chamber erupted in a chorus of agreement. 43 species, representing trillions of beings, had just declared war on humanity's 8 billion souls. Elena stood, her voice cutting through the noise with surprising force. You're making a mistake. The chamber fell silent. Thrain's eyes narrowed. You dare speak without recognition, human? I dare because you're about to learn a very expensive lesson, Elena said calmly. You see humanity as young and weak. You think our short history makes us inferior. But you've never asked yourselves why we've come so far, so fast. Mirathen's form rippled with what might have been amusement. Enlighten us, primitive. Elena smiled, but there was no warmth in it. We come from a death world, counselor. A planet that tried to kill us every single day. We didn't evolve in peace. We evolved in constant war, against our environment, against predators, against each other, and eventually, against extinction itself. You're about to fight a species that learned warfare before we learned language. Bold words from someone whose people are vastly outnumbered, General Kryn chittered. Numbers aren't everything, Elena replied. But you'll learn that soon enough. I'm officially withdrawing Earth's petition for council membership. Consider this a courtesy warning. Stay away from human space and we'll stay away from yours. You have no choice in this matter, Thrain said coldly. The decision is made. Enforcement begins in 30 cycles. Elena gathered her things and walked toward the exit. At the doorway she paused and looked back. When this is over, when your fleets are broken and your people are questioning how this happened, remember this moment. Remember that we gave you a chance to walk away. The door sealed behind her with a hiss of pressurized air. In the chamber, Counselor Mira then turned to Thrain. Should we be concerned? Thrain's laugh echoed off the crystalline walls. Concerned? About a species that still fights with kinetic weapons? That uses chemical propulsion? They're children playing with fire. In 30 cycles they'll learn their place. Prepare the fleets. Far across the galaxy, on a blue-green world called Earth, another conversation was taking place. Admiral Chen stood before the United Earth Assembly in Geneva, a room that had once hosted nations and now hosted the fate of a species. They've given us 30 days, he said flatly. The Council is mobilizing the largest military force in recorded galactic history. Intelligence suggests they're committing over 15,000 capital ships. President Amara Okafor leaned forward, her fingers steepled. And our forces? 400 ships, ma'am. Maybe 500 if we count the colony defense fleet. The assembly erupted in panicked murmurs. Representative Jackson from the North American Union stood. Then we have to surrender. We can't fight those odds. Chen's expression didn't change. With respect, Representative, we absolutely can fight those odds. And we're going to win. Win? Jackson sputtered. Are you insane? No, sir. I'm a student of history. Chen brought up a holographic display. The Council has had peace for 10,000 years. They haven't fought a real war in longer than human civilization has existed. Their tactics are ancient. Their ships are designed for show and diplomatic presence, not combat. They've grown comfortable. And we haven't? Another representative asked. Chen's smile was grim. We've been fighting each other for our entire existence. The last real peace Earth knew lasted barely 50 years. Every human military in history has studied warfare, refined it, perfected it. We've had nuclear weapons for 3 centuries. We've had space combat doctrine for 2. The Council thinks we're primitive because we use kinetic weapons. They don't understand that we use them because they work. President Okafor stood. Admiral, I need you to be completely honest. Can we actually win this? Chen met her gaze. Ma'am, the Council is about to learn why you don't pick a fight with humanity. Yes, we can win. But it won't be pretty and the galaxy will never be the same. The President nodded slowly. Then we fight. Get our people to safety, Admiral. And show them what humans do when backed into a corner. As the Assembly dissolved into planning committees and defense strategies, Elena Vasquez's ship broke orbit from Vexoria. She looked back at the massive Council station one last time. They have no idea what's coming, she whispered. Her co-pilot, Lieutenant James Park, glanced over. Think they'll really go through with it? They've never backed down from a decision in their entire history, Elena said. They're too proud, too set in their ways. Yes, they'll come. And we'll be ready? Elena thought of Earth, of the colonies, of the 8 billion people whose lives hung in the balance. She thought of her daughter playing in the parks of New Seattle, blissfully unaware that the galaxy had just declared war on her future. We'd better be, she said. The countdown had begun. In 30 cycles, the Council's armada would arrive at humanity's borders. The largest military force ever assembled would descend upon a species barely 200 years old in space. What the Council didn't know, what they couldn't know, was that humanity had been preparing for this exact scenario since the day they met their first alien species. Every military officer, every strategist, every leader had looked at the galactic power structure and asked the same question. What happens when they decide we don't belong? Now they had their answer. And the Council was about to learn the most important lesson in human history. We didn't climb to the top of Earth's food chain by being weak. We got there by being the most dangerous predator on a planet full of things trying to kill us. The countdown ticked away. War was coming. And humanity was ready. First contact. 28 cycles later, the Council's armada arrived at the edge of human space like a storm of metal and fury. Fleet Commander Zondar stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Eternal Dominion, watching his tactical display with satisfaction. 15,000 ships stretched out before him in perfect formation, a wall of overwhelming force that had never been defeated. Scan for human vessels, he ordered. His tactical officer, a young Korvathi named Velen, worked his console. Sir, I'm detecting nothing. No ships, no defense platforms, no activity whatsoever. Zondar's confidence faltered slightly. Nothing? Scan again. Multiple scans confirm, Commander. The system is empty except for one small station in orbit around the third planet. Designation, Terra Station Alpha. They fled, Admiral Rinoke said from his position beside Zondar. The cowards abandoned their own homeworld. But something felt wrong to Zondar. In his 3 centuries of service, he'd overseen compliance actions against 17 species. None had ever simply abandoned their home planet. Open a channel to that station. The view screen flickered and a human face appeared. It was Admiral Chin wearing full military dress uniform. His expression was calm, almost serene. This is Admiral Marcus Chin of the United Earth Defense Force. You are entering human territory without authorization. Zondar gestured dismissively. By order of the Galactic Council, this system is now under Council jurisdiction. You have violated the terms of the ultimatum by refusing to surrender your military assets. Where are your warships, human? Chin smiled. They're around. Our scanners detect nothing. I know. Chen's smile widened. You're using active sensor sweeps, graviton pulses, and quantum resonance detection. All very impressive. All very detectable. We've been watching your fleet since you entered this sector. We know every ship class, every weapon system, every weakness in your formation. Velen worked his console frantically. Commander, I'm picking up strange readings throughout the system. It's like there's something there, but space itself seemed to shudder. Between the Council fleet and Earth, reality rippled. One by one, human warships materialized out of nothing. Not 15,000 ships, only 400, but they appeared from complete stealth, surrounding the Council fleet in a perfect tactical formation. Zondar's 4 eyes widened in shock. How? Thermal masking, electromagnetic dampening, and good old-fashioned patience, Chin explained. We've been here the whole time, Commander. Watching you waltz into our trap. Admiral Rinoke leaned forward. You dare threaten us? You're outnumbered 37-1. I'm not threatening you, Chin said calmly. I'm giving you one chance to leave. Turn your fleet around and go home. Tell the Council that humanity will defend itself, but we don't want this war. Unacceptable. Rinoke roared. Zondar opened fire. Destroy them all. Zondar hesitated. Something about the human's confidence unnerved him. But orders were orders. All ships weapons free. Target the human vessels. Fire at will. The Council fleet opened up with everything they had. Energy beams lanced through space, plasma torpedoes streaked toward human ships, and particle cannons unleashed devastation. It was a display of raw power that should have vaporized the human fleet instantly. Should have. Every single shot missed. What? Velen stared at his console in disbelief. How? The targeting computers, they're all showing direct hits. On the view screen, Chen's expression never changed. You're fighting with targeting systems designed for diplomatic vessels that follow predictable paths. Our ships are built for combat. Real combat. Evasive pattern Delta 7. The human fleet moved like a school of fish, each ship perfectly synchronized with its neighbors. They slipped through the energy barrage with impossible precision, their maneuvers so tight and coordinated that the Council weapons couldn't track them. Return fire, Chin said quietly. The human ships opened up, not with energy weapons, but with something the Council hadn't seen in warfare for millennia: kinetic weapons. Railguns accelerated metal slugs to relativistic speeds. Gauss cannons launched tungsten penetrators. And missiles, primitive, chemical explosive missiles, streaked toward the Council fleet. Admiral Rinoke laughed. Kinetic weapons? Missiles? What is this, a museum display? Our shields will. His words died as the first impacts hit. The Council shields, designed to deflect energy weapons and charged particles, did absolutely nothing against solid matter traveling at a significant fraction of light speed. Tungsten penetrators punched through shield generators like they weren't there. Railgun slugs carved through armor plating. And the missiles, each one carrying multiple independently targeted warheads, saturated point defense systems that weren't designed to track dozens of small, fast-moving objects simultaneously. The dreadnought Golden Accord exploded first, its reactor breaching as a railgun slug penetrated straight through its core. Then the peaceful Resolution. Then a dozen others. Shields down to 60%. Velen shouted. No, 40%. Commander, the shields aren't stopping them. Zondar finally understood. The Council's shields were optimized for the weapons the Council used. The humans had studied their technology and designed weapons specifically to counter it. Evasive maneuvers. All ships scatter. But the Council ships, designed for majesty rather than maneuverability, couldn't match the human vessel's agility. More ships fell, their shields useless, their armor inadequate. Sir. Velen's voice cracked with panic. We've lost 200 vessels. In less than 3 minutes. Chen's voice came over the channel again. Commander Zondar, I'm giving you another chance. Withdraw your fleet. This doesn't have to continue. Pride and fear warred in Zondar's chest. They'd lost 200 ships, more than humanity's entire fleet, in minutes. But he had 15,000. Surely numbers would win eventually. All ships focus fire. Concentrate on the lead human vessel. The entire Council fleet targeted the human flagship, the UEDS Indomitable. Thousands of energy weapons fired simultaneously, creating a storm of destruction that should have obliterated anything in its path. The Indomitable didn't dodge. Instead, massive panels deployed from its hull, reflective surfaces angled precisely. The energy barrage hit the panels and scattered, reflected harmlessly into space or redirected back toward the Council fleet. And where concentrated fire would have overwhelmed the system, the distributed attacks simply dissipated. Ablative armor and reflective countermeasures, Chin explained, his voice almost professorial. You've been fighting energy-based warfare for so long, you forgot about basic physics. Energy can be deflected. Matter, on the other hand. The Indomitable's railguns fired. 6 slugs, each weighing several tons, launched at 30% of light speed. They hit 6 Council dreadnoughts simultaneously. The impacts released energy equivalent to nuclear weapons. All 6 ships simply ceased to exist, vaporized by kinetic force. The tide of battle shifted. What had been a confident advance by the Council became a desperate retreat. Human ships moved through the Council formation like wolves through sheep, their weapons precisely targeting critical systems. They didn't just destroy ships, they disabled them, crippling engines and weapons while leaving life support intact. They're hurting us, Zondar realized with horror. They're pushing us into a kill zone. He was right. The human fleet had maneuvered the Council ships into a tight cluster, surrounded on all sides. And now, from the outer planets, more human vessels appeared, not warships but cargo vessels that had been hiding in the system's asteroid belt. What are those? Admiral Rinoke demanded. Chen answered. Missile platforms. Each one carrying 5,000 warheads. We call them arsenal ships. Fairly simple concept. You don't need a fancy warship to launch missiles. You just need a ship. You're bluffing, Rinoke said, but his voice shook. You wouldn't dare. That many warheads in close quarters would destroy your own ships. Would it? Chen asked. Admiral Vasquez, execute Omega Protocol. Elena's voice came over the channel from the UEDS Retribution. With pleasure, sir. All ships, pattern Omega. Light them up. The human ships activated something new, point defense lasers that created a grid of invisible lines throughout the battlefield. Then the arsenal ships fired. 30,000 missiles launched simultaneously, filling space with fire and fury. But these missiles didn't aim directly at Council ships. Instead, they followed precise, pre-programmed paths, weaving through the point defense grid like threading a needle. The human ships' lasers tracked and destroyed any missiles that deviated from their paths, ensuring none would hit friendly vessels. The Council fleet had no such coordination. Their point defense systems fired wildly, hitting as many of their own ships as enemy missiles. And the missiles that got through, and thousands did, struck with devastating precision. When the smoke cleared, the Council fleet had been reduced by half. 7,000 ships destroyed or disabled. The survivors hung in space, their formations shattered, their confidence broken. Zondar stared at his tactical display in numb shock. In less than 20 minutes, humanity had accomplished what should have been impossible. They'd defeated the largest military force in galactic history with a force a fraction of its size. Commander, Velen whispered. What do we do? Chen's face appeared on the view screen again. His expression was somber now, without triumph. Commander Zondar, I'm going to ask you one more time. Withdraw your fleet. Take your wounded, retrieve your dead, and go home. Tell the Council that humanity will not surrender, but we don't seek conquest. We just want to be left alone. For a long moment, Zondar said nothing. Everything he'd been taught, everything he'd believed about the Council's superiority, lay in ruins around him. Finally he spoke, his voice hollow. How did you do this? Because we had to, Shin replied simply. Your species grew up on garden worlds and stable star systems. You developed space travel during peace. You built your ships as monuments to your civilization. But we come from Earth, a planet that floods, burns, freezes, and quakes. A planet covered in creatures that want to eat us. We built our ships to fight because that's all we've ever known how to do. This isn't personal, Commander. It's survival. Zondar looked around his bridge at the terrified faces of his crew. He thought of the families waiting for these ships to return home victorious. Instead, they'd been humiliated, outmaneuvered, and devastated by a species they dismissed as primitive. All ships, he said quietly. Cease fire. Prepare for retreat. Commander, no. Admiral Rinoke protested. We still have 7,000 ships. We can die. Zondar cut him off. All of us. And for what? Our pride? Admiral Chin is right. We came here seeking compliance, not annihilation. We've lost enough. He turned to the view screen. We're withdrawing, Admiral. But this isn't over. The Council will. The Council will do what it always does, Chin interrupted. It will debate, posture, and eventually make the same mistakes again. But when it does, we'll be ready. We'll always be ready. That's what you need to understand. Humanity doesn't know how to stop preparing for the worst. It's kept us alive this long. The Council fleet began its retreat, limping away from Earth with its survivors. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Chen watched them go. Lieutenant Park approached. Sir, should we pursue? No, Chen said firmly. We made our point. Now we need to prepare for round 2. Because this was just the opening move. He was right to be concerned. Light years away in the council chamber, Thrain Vex was receiving the news of the defeat. His 4 hands clenched into fists as the holographic display showed the carnage. They used primitive weapons, he snarled. They tricked us with simple tactics. They humiliated us. Counselor Miradhen's form shimmered with agitation. What do we do? If word of this defeat spreads. Then we ensure it doesn't spread, Thrain said coldly. We censure the reports. We call this a tactical withdrawal. And we prepare a second wave, one that won't underestimate these humans. We'll study their tactics. We'll adapt our shields. And we'll return with such overwhelming force that they'll have no choice but to surrender. And if they don't? Miradhen asked. Thrain's eyes glittered with cold fury. Then we'll exterminate them. Every last one. The galaxy will learn that no one defies the council and survives. The first battle was over. But the war had just begun. The insurgency. 2 cycles after the Battle of Earth, Ambassador Elena Vasquez found herself in a very different kind of fight. She stood in the maintenance corridor of orbital station Kepler 442, 500 light-years from Earth, watching her infiltration team prepare for the most dangerous mission humanity had ever attempted. The Council had taken the defeat at Earth badly, very badly. They'd imposed a complete information blockade, censoring all news of the battle. To the rest of the galaxy, humanity's victory had never happened. The official story was that Earth had surrendered, and human worlds were peacefully transitioning to Council governance. It was a lie but a convincing one. And it was working. Charges are set, Lieutenant Sarah Kim whispered, checking her wrist display. We've got 20 minutes before the security rotation changes. Elena nodded. Kepler Station was a Council intelligence hub, containing the communications nexus for 3 entire sectors. If they could break in, upload their virus and broadcast the truth about Earth, every species in the Council would know they'd been lied to. It was insane. It was desperate. It was exactly the kind of plan humans excelled at. Remember, Elena said quietly to her team of 5, we're not here to start a fight. We get in, upload the package and get out. No casualties if we can avoid it. And if we can't avoid it? Asked Sergeant Marcus Webb, checking his weapon. Then we make sure the Council remembers why they shouldn't have lied about us, Elena replied. They moved through the corridors like ghosts, using a combination of stolen access codes and simple misdirection. Elena had learned something valuable during her time with the Council. When you'd lived in peace for 10,000 years, security became relaxed. They reached the central data core without incident. Kim went to work on the terminal while the others stood guard. Elena watched the countdown timer on her display. 15 minutes. This is almost too easy, Webb muttered. Don't, Kim said without looking up. Don't ever say that. You'll jinx us. As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the station. Or maybe the universe just hates us, Kim amended, her fingers flying over the controls. I need 2 more minutes. You've got 1. Elena snapped as footsteps thundered down the corridor. Webb, Kim, hold this position. Everyone else with me. We're buying time. Elena and her remaining team members set up a defensive position at the corridor intersection. The first Council security team rounded the corner, 6 Korvathi guards in ceremonial armor that looked impressive but wasn't designed for actual combat. This is Ambassador Vasquez, Elena called out. We don't want to hurt you. Stand down and let us complete our mission. The lead guard's translator rendered his response. You are under arrest for unauthorized access to Council property. Surrender immediately. Can't do that, Elena said. Then, almost apologetically, sorry about this. The human team opened fire with stunners, non-lethal weapons designed to incapacitate rather than kill. The Council guards went down before they could even raise their ceremonial energy lances. More guards were coming though, and Elena could hear them coordinating on their communication channels. Kim, she shouted. 30 seconds. The next wave of guards was larger, 20 soldiers better armed. They took positions and opened fire with their energy weapons. The humans ducked behind cover as the corridor lit up with plasma fire. They're learning, Webb observed, returning fire. These ones actually know how to use cover. Upload complete. Kim shouted triumphantly. The virus is in their system and broadcasting to every Council world simultaneously. Then we're leaving. Elena ordered. Extraction point, double time. They ran, fighting a running battle through the station corridors. More guards appeared, but the humans had studied Council station layouts for months. They knew every shortcut, every access tunnel, every weakness. But then they turned a corner and found themselves facing something unexpected. A military barricade manned by actual council combat troops, hardened soldiers from a dozen campaigns, not ceremonial guards. And standing at the center was someone Elena recognized. General Kryn, the insectoid council member who'd called for humanity's subjugation. Humans? Kryn clicked, his mandibles twitching. Your infiltration ends here. Surrender and you'll be treated as prisoners of war. Resist and, well, accidents happen. Elena's team formed up behind her, weapons ready. She calculated the odds and didn't like them. But then she smiled. General, before you do something you'll regret, I suggest you check your tactical displays. Kryn's compound eyes flickered. One of his officers handed him a data pad. His mandibles clacked in what might have been surprise or anger. Elena couldn't tell. What have you done? He demanded. Told the truth, Elena replied. Right now, every council world is receiving uncensored footage of the Battle of Earth. They're seeing what really happened. They're seeing the counselors lie about it. They're learning that the mighty council got its ass handed to it by a species you called primitive. Kryn's weapon remained steady, but Elena could see the calculation in his eyes. Kill them and prove humanity's claims about council brutality. Or let them go and lose face. You're a soldier, General, Elena said quietly. A real one. You've actually fought wars unlike most of the council. You know what we did at Earth wasn't luck. So I'm going to make you an offer. Let us go and this ends here. Try to stop us and you'll learn firsthand why attacking humans in a confined space is a really bad idea. For a long moment, Kryn didn't move. Then his mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. You're bluffing. You're outnumbered 10-1. Am I? Elena glanced at her wrist display. Lieutenant Kim, please tell the general about the surprise we left in the station's reactor. Kim's voice came over the comm, cheerful and terrifying. All right. So, we didn't just upload a virus to their communication system. We also uploaded one to their reactor control system. Nothing dangerous, just a little command that will shut down the magnetic containment in about 3 minutes. Unless someone enters the override code, which only I know. You're insane, Kryn breathed. No, Elena corrected. We're desperate. There's a difference. Now you can try to torture the code out of Lieutenant Kim, but I guarantee you won't get it in time. Or you can let us walk out of here, and I'll have her transmit the code once we're safely away. You'd really kill everyone on this station? One of Kryn's officers demanded. Would we? Elena met Kryn's eyes. You tell me, General. You've studied human history. You know what we're capable of when we're cornered. Do you really want to test whether I'm bluffing? The truth was Kim hadn't done anything to the reactor. It was a complete bluff. But Elena had learned something important about the Council. They'd lived in peace so long that the concept of mutually assured destruction was alien to them. The idea that someone would actually blow up a station full of thousands of people, including themselves, was so far outside their experience that they couldn't conceive of it being a bluff. Kryn's weapon lowered. Go. But this isn't mercy, human. This is a tactical decision. I want you alive so I can study you, understand how you think. The next time we meet, I'll be ready. I look forward to it, Elena said. They backed away, weapons trained on the Council soldiers until they reached an airlock. Their ship, the UEDS Phantom, was waiting, camouflaged against the station's hull. They scrambled aboard and the ship detached, its stealth systems engaging immediately. As they burned away from the station, Kim looked over at Elena. Ma'am, that thing about the reactor was a complete lie, yes, Elena confirmed. But they didn't need to know that. That was the craziest bluff I've ever seen, Webb said, shaking his head. It wasn't a bluff, Elena replied. It was a lesson. We taught them that humans are unpredictable and dangerous. And that's the message we need to spread. Back on the station, General Kryn watched the human ship disappear into the void. His second-in-command approached nervously. Sir, should we pursue? No, Kryn said thoughtfully. Let them go. They've given us exactly what we needed. Sir? They've shown their hand, Kryn explained. They're not just warriors, they're insurgents, saboteurs, thinkers. The Council has been approaching this war wrong. We've been trying to overwhelm them with force. But you can't overwhelm an insurgency with brute strength. What do you suggest? Kryn turned away from the viewport, his mind already working on new strategies. We adapt. We learn. And we show them that the Council hasn't survived for 10,000 years by being inflexible. If they want to fight dirty, we'll fight dirty. If they want to use unconventional tactics, we'll do the same. The other counselors won't approve. Then they can lead this war themselves, Kryn snapped. I was given command of military operations. I intend to actually command them. He pulled up a star map showing the dozens of human colonies scattered across their territory. Here's what we're going to do. We're not going to attack their homeworld again, that's what they expect. Instead, we're going to isolate them. We'll blockade their trade routes, intercept their supply ships, and cut off their colonies one by one. Let's see how brave they are when their children are starving. It was a sound strategy, the kind of strategy that should have worked. But it had one fatal flaw. It assumed the Council understood human psychology. They didn't. 4 cycles later, the Council blockade fleet arrived at the human colony of New Harmony, an agricultural world of 2 million colonists. Fleet Commander Tolvas expected either defiance or surrender. He got neither. Instead, the governor of New Harmony, a woman named Director Chin, no relation to Admiral Chin despite the common surname, sent a simple message. You're blockading us? Fine. We're a farming world. We can last 5 years without off-world supplies. Can you last 5 years without the food we export? Oh, and by the way, we just sent our entire grain harvest to the dozen council worlds that depend on our crops. So when they start running short in about 3 months, you can explain why you're starving your own people to intimidate us. Tolvash checked the data and realized she was right. New Harmony supplied agricultural products to several council worlds. The blockade would hurt the council more than the humans. Similar scenes played out across human space. Every attempt to isolate or intimidate human colonies backfired. The humans were too interconnected with galactic trade, too embedded in the economic system. Cutting them off meant cutting off the council's own supply lines. And everywhere the council fleet went, they found prepared defenses, clever traps, and humans who absolutely refused to give up. On the mining colony of Refuge, the council arrived to find the entire population had evacuated underground, and every mining explosive in the colony had been rigged to blow if any council ship tried to land. On the research station of Alexandria, the human scientists had released every containment sample they'd been studying, including a particularly aggressive mold that ate through Korvathi ship hulls. On the trading hub of Crossroads, the human merchants had simply continued trading. They welcomed council inspectors, paid their taxes, and conducted business as usual. The only difference was that every cargo ship now carried hidden compartments full of weapons, supplies, and intelligence data being smuggled to human resistance cells. General Kryn reviewed the reports with growing frustration. They're everywhere and nowhere. Every colony is a fortress. Every civilian is a potential insurgent. Every trade ship is a potential weapons smuggler. How do you fight an entire species that refuses to follow the rules of war? His intelligence officer, a thoughtful Etherian named Sileth, offered an answer. Perhaps we're asking the wrong question, General. Perhaps the question isn't how to fight them, but whether we should be fighting them at all. Kryn's mandibles clicked angrily. You're suggesting we surrender? I'm suggesting we consider whether this war is winnable, Sileth replied carefully. The Council has lost over 8,000 ships. We've spent enormous resources. And we've accomplished nothing except turning humanity into a permanent threat. Meanwhile, their broadcasts have reached every corner of the galaxy. Other species are watching. Some are even questioning the Council's authority. Then we crush them harder, Kryn said. But even as he said it, he knew the truth. The humans had already won the most important battle, the one for hearts and minds. The Council might have superior numbers and technology, but humanity had something more powerful, an idea. The idea that the Council's rule wasn't inevitable. The idea that a younger, smaller species could stand up and survive. And ideas, Kryn was learning, were far more dangerous than any weapon. The breaking point. 6 cycles into the war, Fleet Commander Zondar stood before the Council chamber once again, but this time not as a confident commander. This time he stood as a bearer of increasingly bad news. The humans have struck 13 supply convoys in the past cycle, he reported, his voice weary. They've destroyed 4 shipyards. And yesterday, they successfully infiltrated and sabotaged the Council's main communications relay at Sector 9. Thrain Vex's 4 fists slammed against his podium. 13 convoys? Oh, we have escorts. We have patrols. They're using new tactics, Zondar explained, bringing up a holographic display. They don't attack with warships anymore. They use civilian vessels loaded with kinetic kill vehicles. By the time our sensors identify the threat, the projectiles have already launched. They're flying themselves, no crews to capture, no ships to chase down. Just automated weapons platforms that look exactly like cargo haulers until it's too late. Counselor Mira then shimmered with agitation. And the infiltration? How did they penetrate one of our most secure facilities? They walked in through the front door, Zondar said bitterly. They'd studied our security protocols and forged credentials that were perfect. Absolutely perfect. They spent 3 months working in that facility as maintenance staff before anyone realized they were human. 3 months. General Crin's mandibles clicked with what might have been grudging respect. Incredible. They sent deep cover operatives and waited for the perfect moment. It's more than that, Zondar continued. We've discovered that humans have been infiltrating council facilities for over a year, long before the war even started. They've been planning this since the moment they first met us. The chamber erupted in outraged voices. Thrain struggled to restore order. This is unacceptable. We must increase security measures immediately. To what end? Asked a new voice. Everyone turned. It was Councillor Vexith of the Lumini, a species known for their philosophical wisdom. The elderly being had remained silent throughout most of the war debates, but now he rose from his seat. What do you mean? Thrain demanded. I mean, Vexith said slowly, that we have spent 6 cycles, billions of credits, and thousands of lives trying to subjugate a single species. And what have we accomplished? We've lost 11,000 ships. Our economy is strained. Other species are beginning to question our leadership. And the humans are thriving. Thriving? Miradhen's form flickered with disbelief. We have them blockaded. Do we? Vexith brought up economic data. Human trade has increased by 40% since the war began. Do you know why? Because they've positioned themselves as the underdogs, the rebels fighting against oppression. Half the galaxy is secretly routing supplies to them. Some species are even offering them technology in exchange for their military tactics. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Vexith continued. We declared war to prevent humanity from disrupting our galactic order. Instead, we have guaranteed that disruption. We have created exactly the crisis we sought to avoid. Then what do you suggest? Thrain asked coldly. Surrender? I suggest, Vexith said, that we consider the possibility that we were wrong. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Council members shouted over each other, their voices translated into a cacophony of outrage. But beneath the anger Zondar could see something else, doubt, fear. The realization that they might actually lose this war. Far from the council chamber, in a secret command center hidden within an asteroid field, Admiral Chen was conducting a very different meeting. The council is fracturing, Elena Vasquez reported, her holographic form flickering slightly. Our intelligence indicates that at least 7 species are privately questioning the war. 3 have already begun secret negotiations with our diplomats. Chen nodded. Good. But we can't let up the pressure. Commander Okoye, what's the status of Operation Prometheus? Commander Amara Okoye, a brilliant tactician who'd been running guerrilla operations in council space, grinned. Ready to launch, sir. We've identified the council's strategic reserve fleet, 2,000 ships they've been holding back in case we attack their core worlds. They're stationed at the Vexoria fortress, which they believe is impregnable. And is it? Chen asked. Absolutely, Okoye said cheerfully. It has layered shields, automated defense platforms, and enough firepower to hold off 10 times our entire fleet. Attacking it directly would be suicide. So we're not attacking it directly, Chen said. Exactly. We're going to make them think we're attacking it directly. Okoye brought up tactical displays. We'll send a small force, 50 ships, on what appears to be a suicide run at the fortress. The council will scramble their reserve fleet to intercept, pulling them out of position. And while they're focused on our decoy force, our real fleet hits their actual target, Elena finished, understanding dawning. But what's valuable enough to make them pull their reserves? Chen smiled grimly. The council archive. It contains 10,000 years of treaties, agreements, and historical records. It's the foundation of their entire legal system. Without it, their authority crumbles. They'll defend it with everything they have, Lieutenant Park observed. Which is why we need them looking the other way, Chen said. Okoye, you have authorization to proceed. But remember, minimal casualties. We're not trying to kill them. We're trying to show them they can't protect everything. The operation launched 3 cycles later. The human decoy fleet appeared at the edge of the Vexoria system, broadcasting loudly on all channels. 50 human warships, led by Commander Sarah Kim in the UEDS Defiant, charged directly at the fortress. On the fortress command deck, Admiral Tireth watched the approaching ships with confusion. Are they serious? They can't possibly think 50 ships can breach our defenses. It's a distraction, his tactical officer said. It has to be. Then we'll spring their trap, Tireth decided. Launch the reserve fleet. Intercept them before they reach the fortress. And scan every other system within 100 light years. Find their real target. The Council's reserve fleet, 2,000 of their best warships, launched to intercept the human decoy force. The fleets met in open space, and the humans immediately demonstrated why they'd survived this long. The 50 human ships didn't try to fight. They scattered, each one heading in a different direction at maximum speed. The Council ships gave chase, their formations breaking apart as they pursued individual targets. "They're running," one Council captain reported triumphantly. But Commander Kim, watching from the Defiant, was counting down. "All ships, mark your positions. In 3, 1, now." Every human ship simultaneously released their entire payload of mines, thousands of small, intelligent explosives that immediately began seeking the nearest Council ship. The pursuing vessels ran straight into fields of explosives, their momentum carrying them into the traps before they could react. Explosions blossomed throughout the system. Hundreds of Council ships took damage, their shields depleted, their hulls breached. "Regroup," Admiral Tireth ordered frantically. "Reform defensive positions." But the Council ships were scattered, confused, and damaged. And that's when the second phase of the human plan revealed itself. From hiding spots throughout the system, behind planets, within gas clouds, even lurking in the atmosphere of a nearby giant, human ships appeared. Not 50 ships this time. 300. The entire human strike fleet, positioned days ago, waiting for this exact moment. The battle turned into a massacre. The Council Reserve Fleet, designed to be an overwhelming force, found itself surrounded, outnumbered, and outmaneuvered. Human ships struck with surgical precision, targeting engines and weapons but avoiding life support systems whenever possible. "They're not trying to kill us," Tireth realized with horror. "They're trying to capture our ships." He was right. Human boarding parties were already attaching to disabled Council vessels, their marines moving through corridors with practiced efficiency. But they weren't killing the crews, they were herding them into escape pods and launching them toward nearby habitable worlds. "Why?" Tireth demanded as his own ship shuddered under impact. "Why spare us?" Commander Kim's voice came over the open channel. "Because, Admiral, we're not monsters. We're just people who want to be left alone. Your crews will be picked up within hours. Your ships, on the other hand, we're keeping. Consider them reparations for the colonies you tried to blockade." While the battle at Vexoria raged, the real operation was unfolding light years away. Admiral Chin himself led the strike on the Council Archive, a massive structure orbiting a neutron star. It was protected by automated defenses and a small garrison fleet, but with the reserve fleet committed at Vexoria, it was vulnerable. The human fleet didn't attack with weapons. Instead, they launched boarding craft, dozens of them each carrying elite infiltration teams. Elena Vesquez led one such team, her decades of diplomatic experience finally put to its intended use. "Remember," she said to her team as they breached the archive's outer hull, "we're not here to destroy anything. We're here to copy everything and leave evidence that we were here. The Council needs to know that their secrets aren't safe." They moved through the archive like ghosts, uploading data, copying files, and leaving calling cards, simple notes that read, "Humanity was here. We could have destroyed this. We chose not to. Choose peace." The archive garrison realized what was happening too late. By the time they responded, the human teams were already extracting, their ships slipping away into the void with terabytes of Council secrets. When Admiral Tireth finally limped back to Council space with the survivors of his fleet, he found Thrain Vex waiting with barely contained fury. "You lost 1,000 ships," Thrain said, his voice dangerously quiet. "And they captured 500 more intact. Do you understand what you've done? You've armed our enemy with our own technology." "It was a trap," Tireth said weakly. "They outmaneuvered us at every turn. They're primitives." Thrain roared. "How do they keep doing this?" General Kryn, who'd been observing silently, finally spoke. "Because they're not primitives. That's the lie we keep telling ourselves. They're warriors from a species that survived by being the deadliest thing on their planet. We keep expecting them to fight like civilized beings. They keep fighting like survivors." "Then we need to change our approach," Thrain said. "No more measured responses. No more attempts at occupation. We end this. We mobilize every remaining ship in Council space and we burn their colonies to ash. If we cannot rule them, we'll eliminate them." "That's genocide," Councillor Vex had said quietly. "A war crime by our own laws. Do you see an alternative?" Thrain demanded. They've humiliated us at every turn. They've stolen our secrets. They've turned half the galaxy against us. What choice do we have? Vexus stood slowly. We have the choice to stop. To admit we were wrong. To offer peace. Never. Thrain's four fists clenched. The council does not surrender. Then the council will fall, Vexus said sadly. Because I've seen the data they stole from the archive. I know what they now know. And I know that if we continue this war, we'll destroy ourselves trying to destroy them. What are you talking about? Mira then demanded. Vexith brought up classified documents, ancient files from the council's earliest days. The archive contains records of the council's founding. The real story, not the official history. 10,000 years ago, there were 48 species on the council. Now there are 43. Do you know what happened to the missing 5? The chamber fell silent. They questioned council authority, Vexith continued. They refused to submit to unanimous decisions. So they were removed. Their civilizations dismantled, their people scattered, their existence erased from official records. The council's peace has been built on hidden graves. Those are lies, Thrain said, but his voice lacked conviction. The humans have this data now, Vexith said. They know our secrets, and they're going to share them with every species in the galaxy. When that happens, do you think the 43 member species will continue to follow us blindly? Or will they start asking what happened to the 5 who disappeared? Counselor Miradhen's form flickered rapidly. This is impossible. The archive is secure. Was secure, Vexith corrected. The humans have proven that nothing is secure from a species desperate enough to try. And now we face a choice. Continue this war and watch our entire civilization crumble under the weight of our own secrets, or offer peace and hope that humanity is as merciful as they claim to be. I will not beg for peace, Thrain said firmly. Then you'll die fighting a war you cannot win, Vexith replied. As will we all. The council chamber dissolved into chaos as members argued, accused, and panicked. For the first time in 10,000 years, the council's unity was shattering. And in the human command center, Admiral Chen received the data stream from the archive operation and smiled. We've won, Elena said quietly, standing beside him. Not yet, Chen replied. But we've given them a way out. Now we see if they're wise enough to take it. The breaking point had arrived. The council's overwhelming advantage had been neutralized. Their secrets were exposed. Their unity was fracturing. But the most dangerous part of any war is when one side realizes it's losing. Cornered animals fight the hardest. And the council was about to prove that even civilized species could be pushed to desperate measures. The real war was about to begin. Scorched earth. 2 cycles after the archive raid, the council made its most desperate decision yet. Thrain Vex stood before an emergency session, his voice resonating with cold fury. The time for restraint is over. The humans have shown us that conventional warfare is insufficient. Therefore, I am invoking Article 7 of the Preservation Protocols. The chamber erupted in gasps and shocked murmurs. Counselor Vexith rose immediately. Article 7? That's for existential threats. For species that threaten the very survival of galactic civilization. And what would you call this? Thrain demanded, gesturing to the data displays showing human infiltration, stolen secrets, and fractured alliances. They've infected our entire society with doubt. They've turned our own people against us. If that's not an existential threat, what is? Article 7 was the Council's ultimate contingency, permission to use any and all means necessary to eliminate a threat, including weapons and tactics normally considered war crimes. It had been invoked only twice in galactic history, both times against species that had developed planet-killing weapons. General Kryn stood, his mandibles clicking thoughtfully. If we invoke Article 7, we lose all moral authority. We become exactly what the humans claim we are, tyrants willing to commit genocide to maintain power. Better tyrants than extinct, Thrain replied. I call for a vote. The vote was close, 23 in favor, 20 opposed. The council was split almost evenly, but a simple majority was enough. Article 7 was invoked. Within hours, the council's military began preparing weapons that hadn't been used in millennia. Biogenic plagues. Nanite swarms. Reality disruptors that could destabilize an entire star system. But there was one problem. The humans had been monitoring council communications. They knew what was coming. Admiral Chen called an emergency meeting of Earth's Defense Council. His face was grim as he displayed the intercepted plans. They're going to use forbidden weapons against our colonies. If even one of these attacks succeeds, we could lose entire worlds, billions of people. President Okafor leaned back in her chair, her expression unreadable. Can we stop them? Not all of them, Shin admitted. We can intercept some attacks, evacuate some colonies, but we can't protect everyone. They're planning simultaneous strikes against all 15 of our major colonies. We don't have the resources to defend them all. Then we need to change the game, Elena Vasquez said quietly. She'd been standing at the back of the room listening. Now she stepped forward. We've been fighting defensively this whole time. We've proven we can survive, that we can resist. But we haven't shown them what we're truly capable of. What are you suggesting? Okoye asked. Elena brought up a star map showing the Council's core territories. We hit them where it hurts. Not their military installations, their homes. We launch simultaneous strikes against Council civilian targets. That's terrorism, one general objected. We'd be no better than them. No, Elena corrected. We'd be survivors. And I'm not talking about killing civilians. I'm talking about showing them what could happen if we chose to fight the way they're about to fight. We infiltrate their major population centers, we position weapons, and we give them a very simple choice. Back down or discover that humanity knows how to fight dirty too. Chin considered this for a long moment. It's risky. If we're caught before we're ready, they'll use it as justification for genocide. They already have their justification, Elena pointed out. They invoked Article 7. At this point, we either make them fear us enough to stop, or we die trying to fight fair. The debate raged for hours. Finally, President Okafor made the decision. Do it. But Elena, I want your word that no civilian casualties unless absolutely necessary for self-defense. We're not murderers. You have it, Elena promised. Operation Damocles launched immediately. Human infiltration teams, the same ones who'd successfully penetrated Council installations for months, deployed to 43 worlds simultaneously. Their targets weren't military bases. They were population centers, power grids, water supplies, communication hubs. On the Korvathi homeworld, Commander Sarah Kim and her team positioned antimatter charges beneath the capital city's primary fusion reactor. On the Etherian capital, Lieutenant Park's team infiltrated the planetary shield generator. On 41 other worlds, similar teams moved into position. But they didn't activate their weapons. They didn't cause any damage. They simply sent a message to every council member simultaneously. We are here. We could destroy your infrastructure. We could poison your water. We could collapse your shields and let the void in. We could kill billions. But we won't. Because unlike you, we believe in restraint. You have 24 hours to cancel your attacks on human colonies. If you proceed, we will respond in kind. The choice is yours. The message included precise coordinates of every infiltration team, every weapon, every vulnerability they discovered. It was a show of absolute confidence. They were so certain of their abilities that they could give away their positions and still succeed. The council convened in emergency session, and for the first time, true fear entered the chamber. They're in our homes, Mira then said, her form flickering rapidly. Our cities. They could kill our families. It's a bluff, Thrain insisted, but his voice wavered. They wouldn't dare. Wouldn't they? Vexith asked. Have they done anything predictable since this war began? Have they once failed to follow through on a threat? General Kryn brought up tactical data. I've analyzed their positions. They're not bluffing. Every team is positioned to cause maximum infrastructure damage with minimal civilian casualties. They're not trying to kill our people, they're trying to make us understand that they could if they wanted to. Then we strike first. Thrain said. Launch the Article 7 attacks before they can react. And guarantee that they retaliate? Kryn's mandibles clicked in disbelief. You'd sacrifice 43 worlds to destroy 15? That's not strategy, that's suicide. It's necessary. Thrain roared. If we back down now, we admit defeat. We admitted defeat the moment we had to invoke Article 7, Vexith said quietly. We just didn't want to acknowledge it. Thrain, this is over. We've lost. Not because we lack the power to destroy humanity, we clearly have that. But because destroying them would destroy us too. They've made themselves too valuable to the galactic economy, too sympathetic to other species, and too dangerous to attack without devastating consequences. So we surrender? Thrain asked bitterly. We negotiate, Vexith corrected. We offer peace on terms both sides can accept. And we pray that humanity is as merciful as they claim. But Thrain wasn't ready to give up. In secret, without council approval, he sent a message to his most loyal fleet commander, Proceed with Article 7. Target the human homeworld. If Earth falls, the rest will surrender. The fleet, a task force of 500 ships carrying biogenic weapons, launched toward Earth. They jumped through hyperspace, confident in their mission, certain of victory. They never saw the trap. Humanity had been monitoring Council communications, but they'd also been monitoring Thrain personally. They'd predicted he might go rogue, and they'd prepared accordingly. When the Council fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, they found themselves surrounded. Not by human ships, by something worse. What are those? The fleet commander stammered, staring at his sensors. Thousands of objects filled the space around his fleet. They looked like asteroids at first, but they were moving with purpose, adjusting positions, forming a perfect sphere around the Council ships. Admiral Chen's voice broadcast on all frequencies. Those are kinetic kill vehicles. Rocks accelerated to 90% of light speed, held in position by precisely calculated trajectories. Right now they're in stable orbits. But if your fleet makes any hostile move, any attempt to proceed toward Earth, they'll be released. All of them. Simultaneously. The fleet commander did the math. At those speeds, even a small rock would release energy equivalent to nuclear weapons. Thousands of them would. You'd destroy us all. Yes, Shin confirmed. And since we positioned them weeks ago, long before you arrived, we've also positioned similar networks around every Council homeworld. Right now, there are rocks orbiting above your cities, your capitals, your families. All held in check by automated systems that will release if anything happens to Earth. Mutually assured destruction, the fleet commander breathed. You've created a doomsday weapon. We've created insurance, Shin corrected. You can't attack us without destroying yourselves. And we've made sure every species in the galaxy knows it. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to turn your fleet around, return to Council space, and you're going to tell Thrain that his war is over. Earth is untouchable. Our colonies are untouchable. We're untouchable. Not because you can't hurt us, but because hurting us means ending galactic civilization. The Council will never accept this. The Council doesn't have a choice. Elena's voice joined the transmission. Neither do we. This is the galaxy now. Two species with fingers on the trigger, neither willing to fire, both hoping the other blinks first. It's called deterrence. Welcome to it. The Council fleet retreated. But the damage was done. The revelation that humanity had created a galaxy-wide deterrent network sent shockwaves through every civilization. Some species were horrified. Others were impressed. But all of them understood the implications. Humanity couldn't be conquered without unacceptable cost. In the Council chamber, Thrain faced calls for his removal. You've doomed us all. Counselor Mira then accused. If those weapons ever activate, then we all die, Thrain said hollowly. But that was always the risk. The humans simply made it explicit. General Kryn stepped forward. This is the moment, counselors. We can continue this war and risk extinction, or we can negotiate peace while we still have leverage. I recommend the latter. What leverage? Thrain asked bitterly. They hold doomsday weapons over every populated world. And we still have Article 7 authorization, Kryn replied. They know that if pushed too far, we're capable of genocide. It's a balance of terror. Neither side can win through violence, so both sides must win through diplomacy. It was Counselor Vexith who made the final proposal. I will personally travel to Earth to negotiate peace terms. I will offer humanity what we should have offered from the beginning. Recognition as a sovereign species, full trading rights, and a seat on the Council as equals, not subjects. A seat on the Council? Thrain was aghast. You want to give them authority over galactic affairs? I want to give them a voice before they decide they don't need our permission to have one, Vexith replied. They've proven they can survive without us, fight us to a standstill, and threaten our existence if pushed. The question isn't whether they deserve a seat at the table, it's whether we can afford to keep them from it. The vote was close, but it passed. Vexith would travel to Earth to negotiate peace. But not everyone was ready to accept defeat. In the shadows of Council politics, a faction began to form. Hardliners who believed that humanity was too dangerous to coexist with, that peace was surrender, and that any cost was acceptable to ensure humanity's destruction. They would wait. They would plan. And when the moment was right, they would strike. The war might be ending, but the real conflict, the struggle for galactic power, was just beginning. The negotiation. Counselor Vexith's ship arrived at Earth orbit under a flag of truce. It was a historic moment. The first time a Council member had traveled to human space as a dignitary rather than a conqueror. Admiral Chen greeted him personally aboard Terra Station Alpha, the same station where he'd delivered his warning months ago. Now they met as equals, standing in a conference room overlooking the blue-green planet below. "I must admit," Vexith said, his aged form settling into a specially designed chair, "when I look at your world, I don't see a death world. I see beauty. Beauty that tries to kill you," Elena Vasquez noted from her position against the wall. She'd been chosen as humanity's primary negotiator, her diplomatic experience finally being used as intended. Hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, temperature extremes. Earth is beautiful and brutal in equal measure. "Perhaps that's what makes your species so resilient," Vexith mused. "You're used to fighting for survival." "Every day," Chin agreed. "Counselor, let's not waste time with pleasantries. You're here to negotiate peace. We're willing to listen. What are the Council's terms?" Vexith pulled up a holographic display. "Mutual disarmament of doomsday weapons. Withdrawal of all military forces from contested zones. Recognition of human territorial sovereignty. And, if humanity agrees, a provisional seat on the Galactic Council." "Provisional?" Elena raised an eyebrow. "There are those on the Council who are less enthusiastic about human membership," Vexith admitted. "They fear that humanity will use Council authority to pursue revenge for this war." "Will you?" Vexith asked directly. Elena and Chin exchanged glances. Finally, Elena spoke. "Counselor, humanity didn't start this war. We didn't want it. Every human who died, every colony that was threatened, every resource we spent on defense, that was forced upon us. Of course we're angry. Of course we want justice. But revenge? No. We're too busy rebuilding to waste energy on petty vengeance." "Then what do you want?" Vexith asked. "We want what we've always wanted," Chin said. "To be left alone to develop on our own terms. To trade freely. To explore the galaxy without fear of being subjugated. And yes, if we're going to be part of this galactic community, we want a voice in how it's run. A real voice, not provisional status that can be revoked the moment we say something the Council doesn't like." Vexith nodded slowly. "That's reasonable. But you must understand, the Council has existed for 10,000 years with certain traditions, certain ways of doing things. Giving humanity full membership immediately would set a precedent that some find uncomfortable. Because it would mean other species could demand the same," Elena said, understanding dawning. "You're not just negotiating with us. You're negotiating with every other species that's been watching this war and wondering why they submit to Council authority." "Precisely," Vexith confirmed. "Your resistance has inspired questions we thought were settled millennia ago. If we give you full Council membership without conditions, others will demand it too. The Council's authority could collapse entirely. And if you don't give us full membership?" Chin asked. "Then humanity remains outside the Council structure, but with full sovereignty and trading rights. You'd be independent but isolated." Elena stood and walked to the viewport looking down at Earth. After a long moment she turned back. "Counter-proposal. We accept provisional membership for now, but with full voting rights on any matter that directly affects humanity. After 5 years the provisional status is reviewed. If we've proven ourselves responsible Council members, the status becomes permanent. If not, we part ways peacefully." "And the doomsday weapons?" Vexith asked. "Remain in place but under joint custody," Chin said. "A human Council oversight committee with representatives from multiple species. Neither side can activate them without unanimous agreement. It's not trust exactly, but it's mutual vulnerability. Sometimes that's better." Vexith considered this for a long time. Finally he nodded. "I believe I can sell this to the Council. But there's one more issue we must address." He pulled up data showing the 5 civilizations that had disappeared from Council records. "You know our secrets now. You know what the Council did to species that refused to submit. What are you going to do with that information?" Elena had been expecting this question. "We're going to publish it. All of it. Every species in the galaxy deserves to know the truth about the Council's history. That will destabilize everything," Vexith said quietly. "Good," Elena replied without apology. "The current system is built on lies and intimidation. If it collapses because the truth comes out, then it deserved to collapse. Maybe something better can be built in its place. And if the chaos leads to war? To the deaths of billions? Then those deaths will be on the Council's hands, not ours," Chin said firmly. "We're not going to bury the truth to protect a corrupt system. But we're also not going to incite violence. We'll release the information with full context, explaining what happened and why. What the galaxy does with that information is their choice." Vexith sighed, a deeply human gesture that Elena found oddly touching. "You're going to turn the entire galaxy upside down." "The galaxy was already upside down," Elena replied. "We're just helping everyone see it clearly." Over the next 3 cycles, the negotiations continued. Terms were debated, clauses were added, compromises were reached. Finally, they had a treaty both sides could accept. Immediate cessation of all hostilities, withdrawal of military forces from contested zones within 30 days, recognition of human territorial sovereignty, provisional council membership for humanity with full voting rights on matters affecting human interest, review of provisional status after 5 years, joint custody of deterrent weapons with oversight committee, freedom for humanity to publish historical information about the council, reparations paid by the council for damages to human colonies. It wasn't perfect. Both sides made concessions they didn't like. But it was peace. The treaty was signed aboard a neutral station in deep space, with representatives from both sides present. Elena and Vexith added their signatures to the document that would reshape galactic politics. "Do you think this will last?" Vexith asked quietly as the ceremony concluded. "No," Elena admitted. "There are too many people on both sides who hate this treaty. Someone will try to sabotage it eventually. Then why sign it? Because even a temporary peace gives us time to prepare for the next crisis," Elena said. "And because maybe, just maybe, if we work together long enough, we'll forget why we hated each other in the first place." The news of the treaty spread across the galaxy within hours. Reactions were mixed. On Earth, celebrations erupted in every major city. The war was over. Humanity had survived. More than survived, they'd won recognition as a sovereign species and gained a seat at the galactic table. In council space, reactions were more complex. Some species celebrated the end of a costly war. Others protested humanity's inclusion on the council. And a few began quietly planning how to undermine the treaty. Among these malcontents was Thrain Vex, stripped of his position but still influential. He met with like-minded individuals and secret hardliners who believed humanity was too dangerous to coexist with. "The treaty is a mistake," Thrain said to the assembled group. "Humanity will use their council position to accumulate power until they challenge us for control of the galaxy."